This thing always shows differently. Says I'm up.
I see you.
You see me.
I
Hi, everyone. I don't see anyone on yet, but we'll give everybody a few minutes to climb on and whatnot, and then we'll get started. We have about a minute, minute and a half before show time, so we'll let everybody get on and see if we can't get some of this in motion today. Do what?
We got a bunch that just jumped on, so we're good.
Oh, wow. All right. So I think this is more people than I've had on in a hot minute. Hello, Miss Bartolucci. Hello, Julie. Let me get this. There we go. Okay. So good morning, good afternoon. It's noon where I'm at. I can't imagine what time it is where all of you are at today. So good morning, good afternoon, good day, good evening, and welcome to another episode of Keune Academy Live. My name is James Helton. I am the Creative Design Ambassador for Keune North America, and today we're going to be doing a segment called Ready, Set, Go. On the other end of the phone here with me, I have our Vice President of Shows and Education and Shows, ever how you want to say that, Miss Jessica Mills. She will be feeding me questions that you guys may have during the program. And questions are if you are unclear on something, if you have a question about a product I used, if you need me to get my big self out of the way so you can see, stuff like that. Because, I mean, apparently I do take up quite a bit of geographical area. So, what about today? One of the things about today is what Ready, Set, Go was. It was really more Ready, Set, Go. All right? So, we're going to be talking a little bit about setting hair today. Product usage. One of the things that we were just speaking about before I came on was I did not realize until I was in it how much product that you need to use, that you can use to achieve the results you're looking for. So that being said, I think Ms. Mills said it best herself. Do not be fearful of your product. Also, I don't really, these are some really just inspirational type things that we're going to be working on today. As time has passed this year, I think that some people, well, including myself, we can start getting a little gassed out by the end of the year. And this year has been all feet on the gas all the time. And one of my colleagues posted the other day on the gram was, I'm out of inspiration. What do you guys, what do you guys find inspiration, that sort of thing. I got a call from another colleague the other day and was like, okay, how do you, get inspiration for this or for that? If I'm looking at this, how do I, translate that into what I'm trying to do? So today was really more about just kind of freeing your mind up, getting it out there, visiting some things we haven't maybe visited in a while. I pulled two vintage set patterns from the interweb. One, as you can see, is a very classic pattern here. And if you are a child of the 70s, and if you're not, you're definitely familiar with this lady here. Being a boy in the 70s, I was for sure familiar with Miss Farrah Fawcett. And one of the things that I think got missed in that whole thing was just how much product she does use. So we have three ladies with us today. I'm going to bring out Miss Emma number one. I wanted to use, where are we at? This set pattern as my inspiration for this. However, where there's pin curls in the back here, I went ahead and used these bendy rods, and just as you can possibly see here, laid them in on the diagonals that the pin curls would have exemplified. I myself, one of my many failures in life was that I was not super hot with pin curls when I was a youngster in the beauty school of it all. So this is kind of a loose cheat, if you will. Super easy bendy rod type of placement here that mirrors the actual diagram up there, which is pretty much working off of a center part and just wrapping straight down. There's 4 sections here that I used on her. And just to kind of change it up a little bit, I left the fringe out on her so that I could get a little contrast in the shape there. Now, one of the things I do want to emphasize here, as I take these off and they spring back, and you can see that, for every rod section on this head, I used what I would probably call one whole pump of our Blowout gelée on each rod section. Now, one of the things that I really like about the Blowout gelée is this right here. Now, keep in mind, each section has one full pump. There's no flaking. There's no real tangling. It doesn't feel producty at all. And you get tons and tons of activation out of this. As you can see, like that's before and that is after. Now, if you went after this a little bit more conservatively, say you just wanted to work this out with your hands. Again, not grippy at all, even though it does have a tremendous amount of style memory. And as you can tell, really holds the shape of the curl. Now, one of the things that I never really thought that I would find much use for again, since I don't do sets very often, and I happen to use a color line that doesn't use heat, I never really thought that much about having a hood dryer again. Luckily, I went out and bought a portable little device that fits on, collapses down so it fits in my suitcase really nice, and that was really helpful in getting her dry. So, as we can see here working through this, one of the things that I like to use a lot, and if you've watched me, it's this guy here. He's a lifesaver in so many ways. If I want to really kind of just start to work in that fringe into that side there, just give that a nice little backwards push there. Not a lot really of need for a lot of like backcombing in this set for me personally. You know, back when we were going to school and whatnot, they would have you just run the fine bristle brush this way and then back that way to get those set lines out. One of the things I like about these rods is that you don't get, as you can see, you don't get a lot of set lines. Now, what do I use to hold this in place? There's a couple of different things you can use that I like to use personally. That's our spray wax. One of the cool things about spray wax is that it works on keeping what little bit of frizz you have or may develop throughout any day or in your comb outs really works to also support that texture and that style, even if you want it to be looser and a little bit less brushed out. Really super easy to get in there and really stretch out that design. Now, if you wanted something that had a little less hold, but wanted to really shine her up a bit, obviously one of the design department favorites, the old Brilliant Gloss Spray, really comes in and makes this very bouncy. Still gets to keep a lot of that loose texture in there, as you can see, as compared to this side where it's really activated with the spray wax. You can come in and keep this a little softer. And really, again, this is a product that I find not only does it wear well, you have a hard time getting too much. And that has a lot to do with the fact that it is an oil-free gloss spray. So one of the things that I like also is I live in Oklahoma, which is a very humid climate. So we have humidity problems, and one of the first things I like to talk about is the Freestyle Spray. Freestyle Spray is a spray that has a relatively high hold. It has like a hold factor of 8, has a shine factor of 5, but it also provides some humidity resistance. So if you live in a humid climate and you're wanting to really work against that a little bit, then the Freestyle Spray is one of your easy solutions for that. I have other solutions that we'll talk about here in just a second, but that is one of my faves there.
James, can you show the comb that you were using again?
This guy here,
With the last one that you were using.
the pick, this guy,
Yeah, what's the name of, how would you name that device? The other one, the gray one.
the gray one, this one.
Yeah.
This is a pick that I would say was as you can see here, this is probably more intended for, like to give the hair a little back combing help without really getting in there and ratting it up. But it is also, as you can see by the front, it has multiple lengths on the tines of the pick. So as far as what I would call it, I would say that this is more of a texture pick versus like just say a standard where all the teeth are straight, where all the teeth are even, that sort of thing. Does that answer the question? Is that what you're looking for?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, awesome. And, again, this guy here, I think I paid $3. So that was one of the things that really I found out with this particular experiment was that you can find tools when you are really like looking for tools or when you don't know what you're looking for, but you're just looking for something. I stumbled on this at Target, So, and I use it all the time, with naturally textured hair, with hair that I'm trying to just get, like I said, a little push in. Like, for instance, just a little back push, which we'll also be working on as we progress through the program today. All right, what do you think about that? I like it.
I love it.
I
love that you brought back tools that we haven't used
Well, thank you for that. And one of the things that this whole thing back here, all of this sets and that sort of thing, really was brought to me when we were talking about doing this live back in early November. Jessica, came to me and she was like, I have one last spot for November. Do you want it? It's at the end of the month. And I was like, yeah, sure. Yeah, why not? And then, of course, in the greatest example of me being me, I was like, you bet I'll do a live. What do you want me to do? And she was like, I don't care. Do whatever you want. And I'm like, no, really, what do you want me to do? So, because I had no idea what to do. And through some talking with myself, with my girlfriend at home, with our senior creative design ambassador, I'd already been working with like vintage things on vintage set patterns with not so vintage items. And he was like, and they were like, well, just run with that. And so this is the first one of that I did. I did this actually also for a cutting class for holiday design not too long ago for an easy fix. This is something that if your client's going out for the evening, you can set them under a dryer, and this will hold from daylight to dark, in my opinion, and vice versa. So we're going to set her to the side. And if you've been with me at all this year, this lady will be highly recognizable. I have worked on her head so many times this year, it's almost an obsessive type situation at this point. I use the same set pattern as I did over here with the other girl before her, this set pattern. Except I did something a little different. If you can see that there, I used these type of rollers, which this roller here literally just pops off like that, comes unrolled just like that. Super easy. I think I paid literally $5 for 20. And I did this head with, I think, 15 total. Now, what I did do is, obviously you can see this section here went from here all the way to the top of the head. I did that on both sides, just like I did with the lady before, except I did one thing different. I came in here, as you can see these right here, these two, and then there's one above this here as well. This is what I like to call a combination between a Zulu knot and a pin curl. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and take this off here and just unwrap that. Super easy to use that. Throw that to the side. Now, I have a story. Everybody knows that I love to tell stories. I'm going to use just a little bit of the Care Silkening Polish. About that much. I have a friend of mine that works with us that on a product release party, he did a whole head full of Zulu knots. All right. Just twisted them out, let them back up on themselves, pinned them, just kept going. Had some, I think Blend Prep Spray was his poison of choice at that time. And then once they started trying to comb it out, it became a little bit more of a problematic situation, because when these bad boys dry, they really form up. What I used on her globally was our Keune, our Style Curl Cream right here. And the amount that I used was probably about a nickel to a nickel and a half. So a nickel plus a dime, maybe, on each section. Like 1, 2, 3, 4 sections of the head. Each one of these sections, I went back over with about a half a pump of the Blowout gelée. Now, what I did do also, because I was like, I don't want to get on camera and this back up on me, so I did kind of go over it a little bit with some Brilliant Gloss Spray to just ease that comb out. Not that I think that I had too much product, but her hair texture is it's very textured. It's dense. It's a little bit above a medium diameter. It's naturally curly. I mean, there's a whole lot of things going on here. But when you unwrap these little pin curl guys here, as you can see, they're twisted, all right? And as you can see also, they're very bouncy. So if you take a little bit of that silkening polish and really start to work that through, you can see how much easier you can get your hands through those, and really how much activation you can see there. This is definitely a head of hair that, in my opinion, you cannot mess with it too much. Like, the more you mess with it, the more the texture grows, the more the hair itself grows, and having these roller curls in there really helps to give a lot of variance in curl pattern, as well as almost these little guys here start to support the bigger ones, almost like you would have in a hair design when you're working with texturizing and that sort of thing. Now, I'm going to go ahead and work this through a little bit more here. Even with as much product as I had in her hair, you can see very easily that I can get through it. There's not a lot of bogging down there that has happened. And more than anything else, it has helped keep your shape. And with textured hair, curly hair, that is the name of the game. Is even if you start getting it a little bit wild, like you can see on this side here, all right, I really wanted to be able to stretch that texture out there a little bit and whatnot, and give it a little bit more drama, if you will. But even if you wanted to kind of keep it a little bit more conservative, you could still do that and be able to keep the shape there. Now, this little nifty little, again, this guy here, you'll find that sometimes the curls want to get bunchy. I'll move this up real fast so you can see. Like, that guy there wants to get bunchy, right? And one of the easiest things you can do, just grab that, just pick that curl piece up. Instead of going this way with it, which would be, you'd be running parallel to your parting, run it this way, which would be perpendicular to your parting, and just run it up the hair shaft a little bit if you want to really pick that up and loosen that curl up a little bit. I can show you again right here, because this fringe here, she wanted to get real bunchy. So just pick it up, pick this up here, and just really softly work that back. And you can see there that you don't have any like backcombing or ratting frizz, but you really get to loosen that curl up. You get to activate that a little bit more and that sort of thing. When I worked on this other side of her, again, with the spray wax, all right, I think it really helps hold the shape of the curls, and you can get in there and really stretch out that texture a lot and really make that a lot more, or very pliable. Now, at the end of the day, when I was really, because this top, she's very dense on the top. I wanted a little more definition out of that. One of the things that I really like to use quite a bit is the forming wax from Style. And about that much. Come in, emulsify that really, really well till it gets nice and shiny. And again, just come in and pull through this a little bit. This wax does not get, I don't think, I mean, I love it because it doesn't get gummy. It doesn't get, I don't know, super waxy. It's very pliable. It really helps the hair hold its shape. It doesn't get wet looking very easily, if that makes any sense. If it doesn't, please tap that in and I'll explain that further. And I think it really helps to hold the shape super well of these curls. Now, one of the things that I would like to talk about also is just because you have curly hair does not mean you don't contend with humidity, because that is a thing. Me being a person that has curly hair myself, I contend with humidity all the time. Nobody likes frizzy hair, curly or straight, and that's where our good old Humidity Shield comes in. Humidity Shield has virtually no hold, has a lower shine, but it really does help fight against humidity and that sort of thing. And you can be, I have found with Humidity Shield, I don't know how much is too much because I put it in my hair while it's wet. I dry it in. I put it in after the fact. And it's still, there's no weight to it. This product is weightless. And I know that a lot of people say that a lot of times out in the world, but I can vouch for the fact that this has no weight to it, and it definitely does combat the humidity. And one of the things I also found is that me not being one that really loves to wash my hair, because if I have to wash my hair, then that means I have to do my hair, and then there's a whole thing there. So this helps to put off a little longer the shampooing of the hair. So yeah, that is, I'll be taking photos of her. I'm sure you know that later. And if you would like, I can for sure post those images of the set patterns online on my stories later. I have them at my disposal, at the ready.
That would be great.
Awesome. So one of the things, we've talked a lot today about product usage. And I'm not going to bore you with a blow dry, but one of the things I did want to talk about, because it's very pertinent to what I have coming up next with my next lady, and it's something that I encountered the other day. I had a lady who's got naturally curly hair. She normally just lets her hair be curly, and she sat in my chair the other day, and she was like, I would like for you to just go ahead and blow it out smooth. I'm like, okay, all right, did you not like it curly? She was like, I'm sitting here, this is a treat for me. So one of the things that I really want to mention today, a little bit about me, is I opened a salon in October of 2008. And for all of my United States friends, in October of 2008, we had the huge mortgage crisis. So it wasn't the greatest time, not probably my smartest move, but it happened the way it happened, and that's just how it happened. So one of the things that I did find inside of that particular time, I learned a very valuable lesson. And that is price versus value. So when you value is, what they're getting for the money they're paying. The price is just whatever it is. It doesn't matter wherever you are. Whatever you charge is fine. All right. We're not here to talk about that. What I am here to talk a little bit about is the value of the service. Coming out of this, I know everybody is, a little COVID fatigue at this point, and I can tell you I'm pretty much one of them too. But what we do know coming out of this is that we will be looking at things economically a little different, which means that your clients will be looking at things economically a little different. So I want you to be able to stand behind that chair and know that you're passing on the greatest value to your clients that you possibly can. Because in our industry, we have people that are retiring. We have some people that aren't returning. So there's going to be clients out there looking for hairdressers and that sort of thing. And one of the things I wanted to talk about was a small pet peeve I have, which is, I call it blast dry culture. I'm off camera for just a minute. Which is, I'm going to go in, I'm going to blast dry the hair, and I'm going to iron it. Which that's cool. More than happy to have, for that to be that way. However, I believe that a lot of your sets, a lot of your iron work can be more supported by the blow dry you give before you do the iron work. And we're going to demonstrate that a little bit, both that and how much you don't need to be fearful of the product you use. Speaking of being fearful of product, this guy here blew me away one time. I was like, ooh, salt mousse. If a little salt mousse is good, then a lot more salt mousse ought to be awesome. Well, a little goes a long way, but I'm going to go ahead and use about that much on her. The great thing is that it still held its shape after I threw it on myself. So we're going to work this through here a little bit. And this is a very minute amount of hair, as you can see here. We're just going to work that through. And then on top of that, here's the key. The blowout gelée. A tiny pump of that over the top of this. So what does that do? You're like, well, if I put salt mousse on there, I want it to be a little gritty. But what if you just wanted the body out of that salt mousse and the grit, but you wanted it to not be jamming you up when you blow dry the hair? The vent brush, one of my favorites. So what I'm going to do is, one of the reasons we call this ready, set, go is this is a portion of the set part, all right? If you've watched me blow dry hair before, you know that I love to come in here and pick up the hair and hit that with a dryer, right? And here is what that does when you do that. Come in from the top, pick that up, set that base in there, and then work to pull that out slowly. So as you can see there, see how much that comes up off the head as opposed to that. You can even see beyond this section how much this pops up. If you wanted that to pop off the head a little more, we can just come in again, go in there, pick that up. This time stretch it out a little further. Hit that with some heat. Notice that I'm not getting in there. I'm not blasting it into submission or anything like that. I'm just really working that through there. And one of the things that I would like to show you is, even just with salt mousse and blowout gelée, that is pretty smooth, all right? Especially considering the fact that I am using salt mousse. And if you'll notice, there's not a lot of tug on that. You really get to come in and have something that you can work the hair with and still keep it soft and have it hold its shape. Come in here, surf that over the top. And now she's ready for her iron work. The reason that I have a little bit of focus on this is that when you do this before you start to round brush, before you start to iron the hair, that sort of thing, you have product in here that's going to support your iron work when you get ready to do that. Or if you're just going to round brush it, you can clearly see that you're going to get a considerable amount of bend, quite a bit of lift just with setting that base in. Now, if you were to, you could do this all the way up the head. If you wanted to have a little bit more of a push back, like the Farrah Fawcett look here, you would use that brush vertically and come in and push that forward, pick that up, and hit that with your dryer that way, and then pull out and through there. This adds value to your service because they'll have more body longer or more fullness longer. Their iron work will stay better because you're not just putting in product before you use the iron. I would still put in product before I use the iron, but this way you get some support for that work. So we're going to move on. Speaking of which, we're going to set this lady to the side and bring out this Emma. Okay, little story about this lady here. This is the traditional Farrah set, okay? Which is a nice diagram across the bottom here. Now the change up. I'll move her in a little closer. You can see in here that she's crimped before she was curled. Now there was a lot of learning experiences with this, okay? One first learning experience is crimp smaller sections than what you intend to roll. So if I was going to have a 1-inch section, I would divide that section in half, crimp both sections, then take my iron and roll and barrel roll that. Number 2 is with a crimper. One of my first learning experiences was that the ends can get a little, it's supposed to be where it goes like that, right? Before you barrel curl that, come out to your ends here with your iron and just turn those under. Then come back up to your root, then do your barrel curl and let that, work itself out that way. Obviously, I've combed out a portion of her already, except for these front pieces, because these front pieces, without the front pieces, that's what you see. There would be some need for a little bit of back brushing or a little bit of back combing a little bit, probably. And then these are all set, curled, pinned, all of that. Now, one of the things that I want to talk about also is the product. On this, obviously, the great segue from the lady before was I used salt mousse. I used Blowout gelée. I also used, before I ironed, the Instant Blowout from Style, as well as the liquid hairspray. All of this, obviously, when she was wet, was precluded by the old, one of the most awesome products we use, which is the Too Faced spray. That being said, crimped her, curled her. I wanted to make it a 2-day thing, but some of the powers that be behind the lens was, get your affairs in order before you stop working. So what you'll see in the back here is I've already got some of her combed out. Now, when I did this, I used, as I'm working the brush through, I did use the soft set spray. And because we know that this is crimped, all right, so crimped hair has a tendency to absorb light, all right? So we know we're not going to get a super high gloss finish out of this. So what I did was come in with dry texturizer, all right? And at the very end of this, just worked that through. Now what that helps to do is obviously it gives it quite a bit of texture, but it also gives it some hold so that those ends come together, and so you don't have a bunch of crazy flyaway ends there. Swinging her around. I use on my lady here just a cushion brush. All right, this is a little cushion brush because, she's got a little head. And really just start to work through the hair that's already been crimped and curled. I'll take the pin out of this. I was super worried about that front piece falling because to me this is the piece de resistance of this particular piece is the front holding itself up, which she's doing a fantastic job. And just really working that through. Now, if you like big hair, that's where it's at. And this is all just done with salt mousse, blowout gelée, a little instant blowout, as well as liquid hairspray. But the thing that I really want to draw attention to is how easy it was to get through. Now, keep in mind, she's been setting for, I think I rolled her on Saturday. So she's been setting all weekend. And I'm going to come back in with a little bit more dry texture spray. Come over the top of that there. Really start to work that in.
So James, would you contribute the majority of the lift and the volume from the crimping technique?
I would say that I would attribute the ability for it to last to the crimping. And obviously, if you crimp it, it's going to cause the hair to expand once the brush hits it, right? So, in a way, yes. Now, what I will say is, for this to last, because I did a dry run on her, and I just crimped the front. I crimped midway at the top here, and I left the front uncrimped when I did the dry run and just with the blow dry. And I let it set for 2 days. And what I found inside of 2 days was that none of it really collapsed. Okay? Obviously, the crimped pieces that were crimped at the root did stand up a little longer, but that front could have easily been worked into the rest of it and would have also lasted. So, in a way, to answer your question, yes. A lot of the bigness of it has a lot to do with the crimping. However, you have to have the product in there to support that. And you also have to have the blow dry coming in, lifting that up, just like we showed with the demo just a second ago, in order for this to truly stay. Does that answer the question?
Yes.
Awesome. You betcha. Now, a little bit of, a little telling on myself here. Probably about a year or two ago, and when I say this, please understand that I'm not putting myself in this category, but one of the coolest things I saw was one of our global directors, Elam Mistur, came on and did a showpiece where the hair was just up off the head. And I shopped it around inside of, she is from the Netherlands, where our corporate, like our international headquarters is. And I asked a lot of my peers, including the lady on the phone here, how did she do that? Because it was literally just off the head. Like, it was huge. And it seemed like the more she messed with it, just the bigger it continued to get, right? Like, the more she messed with it and pushed on it and run her fingers through it, just the bigger it continued to get. And the continued response I got was, other than her magnificent talent, was the amount of product she used. She used, it's the amount of product. It's the amount of product. That's what I kept hearing. So I went in and tested that theory, and here we are. I'm finishing her off with our high impact spray, which is our strongest holding aerosol spray. However, it also is, I think it's somewhat flexible. Like, it holds really, really nice. It has some good style memory, and obviously the more you use it or the more you layer it on, the less movable it becomes, which is, I think, the point of a high hold hairspray. But I don't consider it to be sticky or gummy or anything like that, and it still is restylable. Bringing that back around. And that is my take, a little non-traditional take on Farrah Fawcett.
That's awesome.
Well, thank you. Thank you. I mean, she was, to be honest with you, as much as I complained and cried when I was doing it, because I burned, I don't do a tremendous amount of iron work. I'll tell myself again, I don't do a whole ton of iron work. So I'm here in the studio, just like I'm crimping and I'm curling and ouch, crimp, curl, ouch, constantly just nipping the ends of my fingers here. But I really enjoyed putting her together. Like I said before, we did a bit of a dry run on her to begin with, which allowed me to test out the product that I needed to use, all of that sort of thing, see how it would set up, see how it would set, that sort of thing. And again, just to exemplify or drive home that the product, whatever you're trying to do, think about the product you need to support that thing. If you are wanting a shiny finish, think about the products that are going to provide you with that. If you want a really big finish, think about the products that are going to provide that end result for you. And again, think about it wet. What products do I need to put in wet? What products do I need to put in if I'm going to do iron work? What products do I need to use to support the iron work after the fact? And then obviously, what products am I going to use to support the overall finish? And choose your products, like dry texturizer. I use that to really give some of this separation that you're seeing in here, right? And to give some hold, because I knew I wasn't really that concerned with the shine factor. Now the two ladies before, my product choice on this young lady here was very distinct because I did want that to have a lot of shine, a lot of bounce, that sort of thing. So when she walks down the street, it doesn't look super fixed, but it is going to hold its shape all day. And the same thing with my friend here. Like, I wanted her to be able to have a huge amount of texture and to be able to get a considerable amount of drama out of this hair. And you can see, I'll put it up real close. You can see that, like, that texture is very much in there. It's not crazy frizzy. And the more you mess with that, the bigger it's going to get. So on this last day of the month before the last month of the year, I hope that this helps to inspire some of you, to get you, maybe out of if you're in a rut. If you're not in a rut, that's cool too. And, to just start thinking. I know Jessica doesn't like to use the term thinking out of the box. I like to say, I think she said one time, thinking on another level. And I hope this kind of helps you look at styling from a different perspective. Sometimes when you're wanting to do something new, you don't have to reinvent the wheel. Just think about what the wheel's made of. All right?
So, James, I have 2 questions for you.
Okay.
Also, why I don't like that statement is because that probably means you're living in a box.
Yes, absolutely.
All right, so do you think that these styles and sets are making a comeback?
Now that's an interesting question. I think when we think of things that are coming back, one of the things that I've seen lately is, there's been a big push in what I've seen on like vintage gold as a color. All right. So to me, the key there is vintage, right? So I think that how we do things, there's only a certain amount of ways you can do hair. I mean, it's either long, it's short, it's curly, it's straight, it's layered, it isn't. All right? So when you think about things coming back, I like to think about how can we do those things differently? And to answer your question more directly, I think so. I think that this, if I'm seeing our global creative director doing this, and now knowing this is how that happens, I would say that is definitely very telling of what you can see in the future. Do you agree with that?
Yes. The second question is, do you have a preference for heat protection?
My preference for heat protection are three things, actually. And that is just depending on what I'm wanting to do. Straight up, just heat protection is two-phase spray. All right? If I am wanting heat protection with a little bit of hold and I'm wanting to more expedite my blowout service, whether it's curly, whether it's round brushing, whatever, I use the instant blowout, which does increase your or decrease your dry time by about 75%. And then my all-time favorite as of late is the Blowout Gelée. All right. All of these have heat protection well over 400 degrees. The Blowout Gelée does give a little bit more hold, but it's not really like a gel. All right. You really have a lot of easy brush through, easy comb through. I like to start out with the two-phase and especially the two-phase and the Blowout Gelée as cutting tools when I'm starting to work on designs as far as that goes, because it gives me the opportunity to really work that into the hair and have my end finish as my focus as well while I'm doing that. So does that answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
Awesome. Oh, I guess Julie liked that. So I would say to you guys, I hope you have a very happy holiday. I hope you have a great new year. This has been a year. I'll have to say that, but this has been a year that has pushed me creatively to come up with things that I might not have to come up with, otherwise. I've gotten new skill sets, that sort of thing that I don't know that I would have focused on so much without being in the positions that we're all in. So I encourage you, get out there and think on another level when it comes to your styling and your product usage. And I hope you all have a great holiday. Practice is all this is. I can tell you that right now. There's no grand talent to that. It's just practice. So thank you again for joining us. I hope you guys have an awesome Monday wherever you are. Stay safe, stay healthy, and I'll see you very soon. Thank you very much.